Russos brand family. We are family.
Ladies and gentlemen, ladies, we're driving a Pinto, we're driving a Mercedes. I must admit, I'm too cold to hold, I'm too hot to handle, but I must admit I'm too legit to quit. And with that said, welcome to the newest episode of Inspired with Christopher. That's right, I'm back with a vengeance. This is episode number 4, and I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, with everybody out there that has been so supportive of this passion project for me, thank you so much, because you guys have no clue how much it means to me. Something I just want to say is that if I can just inspire one person from doing this and like help lead them in a good positive direction, then I feel like that I've accomplished my goal. So I'm extremely happy and blessed to hear that people are being affected in the way that they are. Anyways, a few things, and that is my wife and kids. They're doing fantastic. My wife just got, well, I take that back. Okay, my wife is struggling with a bout of the shingles. So I ask everybody out there to pray for her. She's slowly but surely getting over it, but honestly, it's not that fun to deal with. But also as well, my kids, James and Angel, like they're doing very, very well. You know, like they're doing like the normal kid stuff. But at the same time, though, I love them to death, even though they drive me bat crap crazy. But anyways, I can imagine, like, with all the parents that listen to this, that it's the same way. So, whenever I was praying on, like, the topic tonight, I was thinking, oh, excuse me, I just burped a little bit. I was thinking to myself, what am I going to talk about? Because I was praying about it, and I was honestly drawing a blank on things. Then it hit me today, while I was at work. While I was talking to somebody at the counter, because I work at a deli, at a local grocery store here in Myrtle Beach called Food Line. And, while at the deli counter, there was a person that was being very, very rude to me, and like they were being very rude and very judgmental towards me, because they were very, very, very ignorant whenever it came to not fully understanding the fact that I struggle with a speech impediment, that I stutter, and on a daily basis, that's something that is a obstacle that I have to deal with. That is a problem that I have to deal with, and with that comes fear. Mainly like the fear of rejection, and like the fear and like the fear of not coming across as intelligent as I would like, because I'm extremely self-conscious about that, because there's a big misconception that like a lot of people don't realize is just because I'm slow to speak, it doesn't mean that I'm slow to think. Because I'm actually a fairly smart guy, and but unfortunately, there's a lot of people out there that don't see it that way, and which I'm not gonna get mad, but I'm gonna pray for those people, because I used to be in the same exact position that you're in, because before I became a Christian and before I had the speech impediment, I was very judgmental of others with disabilities and very judgmental of people with differences. No, it wasn't the way that I was raised because, like I've said in previous episodes, I had fantastic parents. They weren't perfect, but they taught me right from wrong, and they taught me how to be a stand-up, great person with great morals and someone that can contribute to the world and to make a difference. So, in that aspect, they did a great job. But due to things like peer pressure and due to trying to fit in like with other people, I tried to copy other people's ways, and unfortunately, I came across as extremely cold-hearted, very ignorant, and extremely heartless. And little did I realize, like a couple of years later, whenever God kind of used his speech impediment to straighten me up a little bit, only then did I realize that it was wrong the way that I was acting. And with my stutter, like a lot of people ask me, how did you get it? Okay. And which I just want to let everybody know, it doesn't offend me, because there's a lot of people that think that I'm offended, whenever like they ask me that. It doesn't bother me no more. So basically what happened was whenever I was around 12 years old, my dad was dropping me and my brother off at school. My brother was in high school at the time, and I was in middle school, which I was in 7th grade, I believe, and my brother was in either 10th or 11th grade. But what happened was right after my dad dropped off my brother at the high school. My dad was driving me back to the middle school because, like, the high school that they went in earlier than wait, hold on a second. Like, the high school went in earlier than the middle school, and my dad was sitting at a light, and he saw out of his rearview mirror that was a lady that was driving a truck that wasn't paying attention, and she was driving at a very, very fast speed. So knowing this and knowing that like my father was stuck in traffic, my dad did the only thing that he could do. So he turned around, he tried to brace me, and the car rear-ended us going at 55 miles an hour. The impact, it ended up breaking my dad's neck, which he dealt with the issue until the day that he died, because due to the fear of getting surgery, my father chose to deal with pain for the rest of his life, and which his neck never really healed properly. And for me, the car accident caused me to have a contusion on my brain, which, for people that don't know what a contusion is, that is a spot that swells up on a certain part of your brain. And sometimes it causes things like seizures, and it causes speech impediments, and it causes bleeding, and it causes all kinds of problems. But for me, it caused me to have a temporary case of epilepsy, and it caused me to have a speech impediment. So as the swelling went down, the seizures that I had as a result, they went away. But unfortunately, the spot didn't go away like 100%. So it actually it ended up causing me to have my stutter, which I have to this day. So I've dealt with the speech impediment for the past 18 years, And something I want to say to everybody out there is that I pray that it doesn't take something like this happening for you to appreciate and to learn to respect the differences of others. Because I know for me, not that I'm saying that God is punishing me, but I feel like sometimes God lets things like this happen to open up our eyes, to give us a different view and to give us a different perspective. And that is a obstacle that I deal with on a daily basis, and which I must admit that there's days that I dread going to work. There's days that I dread going out in public because I'm afraid of what certain people might say and what people might think. And that's a fear that I have to this day. That's an insecurity that I have. And I can't believe I'm admitting that, but I definitely hope that helps that helps you guys feel comfortable in knowing that it's okay to admit that you're scared of something, that it's okay to admit that you have certain fears due to certain imperfections in your life. That's like with my teeth. I'm very, very self-conscious of my teeth because they're not in the best condition. That's why for all of you out there that are friends with me on Facebook and Twitter, you're going to notice that I don't show my teeth in pictures. I don't smile showing my teeth because I'm quite frankly embarrassed of them. But that's a personal obstacle that I have to overcome, because I have to be comfortable in my own skin enough to realize that ultimately, if others are going to judge me based off my disabilities or like certain physical attributes, that's their problem and not mine. So those are some fears that I have, and like my speech impediment, that's an example of a obstacle that I deal with on a daily basis. Plus, on top of that, I suffer from a condition known as spinal stenosis and degenerative disc disease, which basically what that means is that the disc in my spinal cord, like, they're slowly deteriorating to the point that that eventually one day, if I don't take care of myself better and if I don't get surgery, that I'm eventually going to end up in a wheelchair. And just keep this in mind that I'm only 30 years old. There's days that my wife has to physically get me out of bed and dress me and tie my shoes. But ultimately, I recognize, hey, there's people that are worse off than me. So no, I will not complain. But I will be grateful for what I struggle with. There's more good than bad. Because yes, I do struggle with these disabilities, but I do recognize that, like, the woman that I wake up next to is my best friend, my partner, the wind beneath my wings, my everything, my wife, Priscilla, and she is the one that shows me what unconditional love is. And she doesn't judge me for my speech impediment. She doesn't judge me for, like, my teeth. She doesn't judge me because she has to dress me on certain days and tie my shoes on certain days because I can't bend over. She loves me unconditionally. And she is a shining example of, in certain ways, what we should try to be. And like what we should strive to be like, which is regardless of circumstance and regardless of faults, that we don't need to love each other. Wait, hold on. Scratch that. We don't need to judge each other, but we need to love each other. And something that I would love to know is, with everybody listening, what are some obstacles that you're going through? What are some fears due to those obstacles that are holding you back from fulfilling your potential? Because I promise you, as promised by God, every person walking on this earth, God has big plans for. God has plans so big beyond your wildest imagination that you can't even comprehend it. Okay? Everybody here, you guys are meant to shake. You guys are meant to make a dent. You guys are meant to make an impact on the world that would change lives for the better. Because honestly, if all of us were following God the way that we should, our world would look completely different. There wouldn't be starving children. There wouldn't be homeless people. There wouldn't be veterans that are struggling to get their benefits. There wouldn't be greed the way it is. There wouldn't be gluttony the way it is. Like, there wouldn't be lust like the way there is. Like, there wouldn't be divorces. There wouldn't be cheating spouses. There wouldn't be broken homes. I mean, just if we were loving the way that God initially intended it to be, things would be so unbelievably different. And I just want to encourage everybody here, hey, take that into perspective, that you need to stop passing judgment on others because of differences. And instead of passing judgment, scratch the judgment and write in love. Because when it all comes down to it, ladies and gentlemen, we are a big giant family here on earth. Okay? We are of different shades, creeds, sexes, you name it. We are all different. We are like a giant kaleidoscope that God has made. And it's so beautiful. It really, really is. If everybody were just to step back and just see things for the way they should be, and you would be amazed and blown away. But anyways, also another example of an obstacle that I have to deal with on a fairly regular basis is that hold on, how do I say this? Okay, another obstacle that I have to deal with on a daily basis is the temptation to use pain pills, which I'm gonna be honest with you guys. After the passing of my father, I became extremely addicted to a painkiller known as Percocet, and which I was prescribed Percocet due to me going to pain management for like my neck and spine issues. But it got to the point that the Percocet stopped working when it came to my pain, and I simply just started taking it to get high and to just zone out and to just try to avoid everything. And which unfortunately that had some negative effects, because not only did it affect my marriage, but it also affected the way that I parented my kids. And I feel really, really bad about that because I made that selfish choice. Because there's a right way and a wrong way, like, to handle situations like death. And unfortunately, like, the crutch that I used were pills. Fortunately, I was able to kick my addiction, and now I am taking a medication that is non-addictive, and it's a non-opioid, and it actually helps me a lot better than what the pain pill did. So for that, I'm grateful. And people ask me, well, what was your rock bottom moment? Like, what did it take for you to realize that you needed help? And for me, I realized that whenever my daughter would come up to me and she would ask me to play, I would simply hold on a second. Anyways, I'm sorry, I had like a tiny brain fart there, but like I was saying, is that it got to the point to where my daughter she came up to me one day while I was laying in bed, and she started crying and said, "Daddy, all you do is lay in bed all day and you don't spend no time with me." And my son felt the same exact way. And like something that I've always prided myself on is being a good dad. But unfortunately, due to that addiction, that took part of that away. And I felt horrible about it. I felt guilty, but I knew through that rock bottom, so to speak, through that recognition, I knew that I had an opportunity. Yes, I had that obstacle in my way. Yes, I was scared and fearful that my kids would think less of me. But God gave me the opportunity to take those steps to correct that. See, at that moment, I realized that God gave me like another opportunity to correct a situation, to correct a obstacle that I made myself. So through all that, I went to the doctor. Like, I sat down like with the doctor, and I started crying. I was bawling my eyes out, and I said, "I'm addicted to this, and through this, not only is it not helping my pain, but I'm simply taking it to not get sick. I'm simply taking it to use it as a crutch to avoid the depression that I was suffering due to the death of my father at the time. And in the process, I was neglecting my wife and children emotionally through that. So, by the grace of God, I was able to take the steps to fix that. And to this day, my daughter and my son and my wife say, "Thank you so much for doing that for us." And I just want to say thank you, God, for giving me the strength to overcome that as well. And which some of you listening might struggle with addictions to things like drugs and alcohol and pornography and things like that. But I just want to promise you that there's nothing too strong that God can't handle. There's nothing that you can't overcome with God by your side. And I just want to pray for you that if you're struggling and you don't know where to turn, and let's say you don't believe in God, I just want to like to let you know that I'm not here to pass judgment, but I'm here like to let you know that I am here for you. If the people that are listening right now, if you're struggling and you want somebody to talk to, speak to me on Facebook, speak to me on Twitter. My Twitter is IamCHM911. My Facebook, just look up Christopher Howard Martin. And if you guys even want to email me, it is IamCHM911@gmail.com. I promise you that I will keep the conversation between us two, but I want to hear from you guys. And I want to know about your struggles because like the Bible says, as iron sharpens iron, we sharpen each other. With the more vulnerable we become, the stronger we can become. And something else that I wanted to say to you guys, another obstacle that I struggled with for many, many years, that I was scared to come out and say, which I didn't tell my my parents until many years later, for fear of my father literally murdering somebody, is the fact I was molested at a young age. As a matter of fact, it happened between two different individuals. And I just want to say that yes, I did struggle with those issues. Yes, I did have emotional problems to where that I felt guilty because I was confused, because I was thinking, well, maybe I did something to deserve it. Maybe I am not valued and loved, and which like that partially led to me becoming a atheist at a young age. And which to everybody out there, just please don't judge me, because I'm being vulnerable here. It happened. The first time it occurred, me and my family, we were living up in Baltimore, Maryland at the time. My mom, my dad, my brother, and me, we were living in a farmhouse in a small town outside of Baltimore called White Marsh. And we had there was a gentleman that my dad knew that needed a place to stay. So we had like a big attic, and we let him stay. So basically what happened was, after like a few months of staying, there was a few times that I would go upstairs while like my mom and dad and my brother weren't there. This gentleman, which I'm not gonna say like his name, but this gentleman, he went on to take advantage of me, and he tried to convince me that it was normal, and that I should like it, and I felt violated, I felt disgusted, I felt ashamed, and on that very day, my innocence was taken away. And then it happened again. About 2 years later, But this actually happened with a family member that I just recently spoke about, that was involved with my mother being murdered, and that was my uncle. I'm not going to go into deep detail about what happened there, but I was taken advantage of, and once again my innocence was taken away, and I felt guilt for so many years over what happened to me. And I felt like I wasn't good enough. I felt like I was trash, and I felt disgusting. And little did I realize that it wasn't my fault, that you can't control people. And I started to think about it from a godly perspective. And I eventually forgave them, because I'm thinking to myself, yes, what they did was wrong. There was no excuse for it, but also something probably happened to them growing up that led to them displaying that unacceptable behavior, that led to taking the innocence away from a child that did not deserve it. And I just want to let you guys know, once again, I'm going to be open, honest, and transparent, because I want you guys to realize that you're going to go through life and you're going to get scars. But that doesn't mean that doesn't mean that those scars will hold you back from fulfilling your fullest potential that God has given you. And yes, I stutter. Yes, I have neck and back issues. Yes, I have learning disabilities. And yes, I was violated as a child. But but not once, since God came into the picture, have I let it get in the way of fulfilling my potential. Yes, I've had roadblocks here, there, and everywhere. Yes, I've procrastinated. Yes, I've tried to justify things. Yes, I have made up excuses to why like I shouldn't do things. But every step of the way, God has provided me the opportunities. God has always opened those doors for me and says to me, "My child, I know you've gone through a lot, but I love you, and you are valued, and you are a wonderful, beautiful reflection of my creations. So please, don't cut yourself down. Don't tell yourself that you're less than, because you're not." And the same goes for every single person that's listening. Every struggle that you've gone through, guess what? God knows about it. Every issue, every scar, God knows about it. And I promise you, if you feel that anger inside, if you feel that frustration, if you feel that hatred, I promise you, Jesus Christ can heal you of that. He's the only one that can do that. I'm a walking, talking example and testimony to that. And as I've gotten older, God is putting more, God put more obstacles, there were more obstacles put in my way. whenever I met my wife, I fell head over heels for her. Just she took my breath away. Literally, like within 7 months after we started dating, like we got married. And whenever I met her, she said to me, "I hope you don't mind, but I have a son." And which I consider him my son now, James, and which I brag about him a lot. And James was 3 at the time, so like my initial reaction was, you know what, this is going to be a challenge, but God's already given me like a ready-made family, and God has given me not one blessing with my wife, but 2 with my son. And unfortunately, with my son's biological father, his loss was my gain. And we fell in love. We fell head over heels. Literally, within our first year of marriage, we moved 13 different times, like within our first year. Okay. We scratched, we clawed, we barely scraped by. Okay. And, literally, like, we were doing paycheck to paycheck. I mean, there were weeks and months that, like, we had no clue how we were going to pay our bills. But it's crazy as it is, God always came through. And which I know a lot of you people are going to say, okay, that's great. That's easier said than done. Please elaborate on how God made that possible and how God gave that to you. All right. God, he is not a genie. He will not randomly just give out stuff, okay? He will give you the opportunity to better yourself. He will give you chances to better yourself. For example, okay, let's say me and my wife, there were many times that we were baffled and wondering, okay, where is our next, where it come from? How are we gonna pay a light bill? How are we gonna pay rent? I kid you not. Literally, like within, if not like a few hours, but like a day or so after we prayed to God, I would normally get like a phone call from my boss saying, "Hey, Chris, do you want some extra hours?" And guess what? That's God right there saying to me, "Hey, don't you worry. As long as you believe in me, I'll take care of you." Okay? There's times where I went into work and I wasn't doing things that I really liked. In particular, as like a lot of you can relate to, because back then I was a cashier, a bagger, and plus I worked at a restaurant called the Noisy Oyster, which was like a Ravens themed raw bar, which I was the busser, and I would do the dishes. So basically, what would happen is that God was so good that, let's say we were short on hours at Food Line, which is the company that I still work for, which is a grocery store like that's located here in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and it's local South Carolina, North Carolina, Georgia, Tennessee, Florida, Virginia, some parts of Pennsylvania, Maryland. It's a pretty big chain throughout the Southeast. But anyways, normally, here in Myrtle Beach, our big industry here is tourism. So through the tourism, we have our busy times and our slow times. Okay, our busy times are normally from April through the end of October. So from like November through March, the our work hours are few and far between. So like let's say I were to average around 40 to 50 hours a week during the busy times. Things would slow down so much that I would be lucky if I were to get 15 to 20. So that's where the noisy oyster came into play. Because I kid you not, anytime I was short on hours at Food Line, God answered my prayers with the noisy oyster, and I was able to make up my hours at the restaurant. So, but thankfully, God gave me those opportunities and gave me like enough sense to think to myself, hey, you have to have a backup plan for your family. I will give you the opportunity as long as you go out and do it. And that's how it works. Okay? And but anyways, we were barely scraping by, but we were making it. Okay? God was the foundation for our marriage and for our family, which he still is. And so like we were barely scraping by like our first year of marriage, and we were trying to have a child, okay? And prior to my wife being like with me, she went through 2 miscarriages with my son's biological father. And she told me this going in, saying, well, I suffer from a condition called endometriosis. And for people that don't know what that is a buildup of scar tissue. It is scar tissues, and it's scar tissues, ulcers, and just basically it feels like barbed wire being wrapped around your bowel and your uterus, okay? And it's very difficult to conceive children with that condition. So my wife said to me, sweetie, I don't want you to hold this against me, but like I might not be able to give you a child. And I said to her, I'm going to love you no matter what, and if God wants us to have a child, he will bless us, okay? So we got pregnant the first time. We were so excited, right? And a few weeks in, we went to the doctor. We couldn't find a heartbeat, so we went through our first miscarriage together. A few months later, we were pregnant again. God, I was excited. It was wonderful. Another miscarriage, which basically like the spinal cord had developed, part of the skull like had developed, but once again there was no heartbeat. And then it happened a third, and I kid you not, I had pain from the struggles as a child, but nothing hurt worse than losing those children. I wouldn't wish it upon my worst enemy. That's another obstacle that was put in our way, that was put in my way. And my wife said to me after the third miscarriage, honey, we're going to try this one last time. And while sitting in the doctor's office, we prayed to God and said, God, if we are meant to have a child, then let it be. let us experience the joy of having that child together. If it's your will, then God, thank you. If it's not your will, thank you anyways. Just the fact that we have our son, that's a blessing enough. So after the 3 miscarriages, we were scared. Okay. A few months later, my wife got pregnant, and she suffered from a condition on top of her endometriosis called hyperemesis gravidarum, which basically it's nonstop morning sickness on steroids 24 hours a day, and it's nonstop vomiting. So basically, my wife would vomit up to 60 times a day. I kid you not. We would go to the hospital on a weekly basis, 3 to 4 times a week, just so she would get fluids for dehydration. And I sat down like with her one day, and I said to her, "Do you really want to continue with this?" And she said to me, "I can easily give up, but at this moment, there's nothing I want more in this life than to give you this child." And she said that it might kill me, but you will get your child. My wife at that moment showed me the true definition of unconditional love. And she said, "I know down in my heart, God will watch out for me. Whether that means the baby's going to get here and I don't make it, or we both make it. God's watching out for me." So after being scared for 8 months, I went to work one day. My wife said that she wasn't feeling too well, but she's been saying that a lot. So I said, "Honey, all right, just sit back, relax, just try to get some rest, and just you can if anything goes on, just call me at work, right?" And little did I realize that I was having a baby that day. No, my wife was having a baby that day, and so I get like a phone call from work. My phone's being blown up, and like my brother-in-law Adam is calling me, because like apparently what happened was, as soon as I left for work, my wife fell into a seizure. And like my brother-in-law rushed her to the hospital, and my wife fell into a seizure. She lost consciousness, and she was blacking out, and her blood pressure was dropping, and her heart rate was dropping, and so was my daughter's. And my wife, being stubborn as she is, even during that time, going in and out of consciousness, says, "We're not taking this baby out until my husband gets here." And as soon as I get the phone call for like my wife giving birth, I'm running down a major highway, which like a big highway here, it's called 501. Running down 501 because we only had one car, and like my brother-in-law saw me running down the highway, and he went from the hospital to my house, which is normally like a 15-minute drive. He made it like within like 8 minutes. I mean, he was hauling butt. And he picked me up. We got back there in like 10 minutes, and like as soon as I got to the hospital, they suited me up, and and like they rushed me into the operating room with my wife. And just looking at her, my wife laying there, even though she was struggling, she was so beautiful. Okay, I mean, it's hard to describe it, but like the beauty of somebody going out of their way to show you that unconditional love, even through that fear, even through those obstacles. It was darn near almost a godlike love my wife was giving me. So my wife, they did a C-section with her. My daughter was cut out. Angel Michelle Martin was born on March 11th, 2013, 4 days after my wife's birthday. So my wife said to me, "That's the greatest birthday gift that you've ever given me." And which she said the number 2 greatest was our trip to Disney World a couple years ago. So I think I did pretty good, but I was so excited that as soon as my daughter's umbilical cord was cut, they took my daughter to a warmer, which was on the other end of the room. So what I did was I kissed my wife on the lips, and I told her how much I loved her and how much I appreciated her, and she said to me, "Go get your baby. Go see your daughter." So I was so excited that I nearly knocked over the tent pole that was used to cover up my wife right at her midsection. So which I was so excited that I nearly knocked the pole over. Then I went over to then I looked down while passing the pole, and I saw my wife's insides. So I can say to my wife, "I've seen your insides." And not many other people can say that. And that's love right there, okay? Someone that loves you so much that she is literally offering up her insides for you. That's love, okay? And at that very moment, whenever I got to go to the nursery and hold my daughter for the first time, that fear, so much of that fear went away. And God reminded me, hey, don't let your fear and those obstacles get in the way of your faith. Because it's your faith in me that's going to get you through. And while holding my daughter that day, I realized everything I've gone through, the good, the bad, the ugly, from dealing with pain pill addiction to being molested to dealing with a screwed up neck and spine, to dealing with learning disabilities, to just having issues in general. It doesn't matter, because I'm not living for myself. I'm living for my daughter. I'm living for my son. I'm living for my wife, and I'm living for God. And it's such a beautiful thing that those moments, which I would literally give my left arm to relive that day all over again, because it's hands down the best day of my life. It's those moments and it's those days that put life into perspective on how fragile it is, and how you have that broken road and those peaks and valleys that lead you to those wonderful moments, and it makes you appreciate it more. Going through those 3 miscarriages made me appreciate my wife more. It made me appreciate my daughter more, and it made me appreciate my son more. And it made me realize, with God as the main being holding everything together, those three people are all that matter. And it's those obstacles and it's those fears that will go away as long as I have that faith. And I hope everybody listening tonight can get something out of what I'm sharing. Because I'm being stripped down and I'm being bare and I'm being transparent. I hope you guys appreciate this. And like I said, please, if you guys want to talk about anything and be vulnerable, the things that you're dealing with, I promise you that it will stay between us, and I'll do everything in my power to encourage you and to inspire you and to help you and point you in the right direction. Because, people, I'm just a vessel that God is using. And, alright. I got a couple minutes left, so let me handle some business, okay? This is called Inspired with Christopher. This is episode number 4. And, this podcast can be found on Google Podcasts, on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, on Stitcher, on Anchor. There's a bunch of podcasting outlets in which you can find this. Please listen to me. Please download. Please subscribe, because I want to get the word out and I want to start a revolution, baby, of encouraging people that it's okay to get it down and dirty and to be brutally honest, because only then can the healing start and the progress begins. And that progress will lead you to reaching your fullest potential in life. Okay? But you must first have God as the foundation for that. And I promise you, as crazy as it sounds, because I'm a former atheist turned youth pastor, alright? If you give all your worries to God, if you give all of your issues to God, you will not come back empty-handed. You'll be blessed. But anyways, okay. And speaking of blessings, some other people that I would love to thank that have inspired me to do this podcast is a gentleman by the name of Vince Russo. He is one of the most misunderstood and most underappreciated men that I have ever met. He has a wonderful show called That's Life on the Russo Brand Network. And that right there was my main inspiration for doing this show. So please, if you would, after checking out my podcast, please check out Vince Russo, the brand. Vince has free podcasts on Google, Spotify, on iHeartRadio, on Apple. But also Vince has a podcasting network called the Realm Network. No kidding. Which I think it's about 8 shows a week, less than $1 a week, $3.95 a month, no long-term commitment, and which is some of the best podcasting in all of entertainment. So, with that said, as well, Big Vino and Noel Lagrasso, You two are fantastic. Thank you so much for being such a positive inspiration for me. Thank you so much for being so open and being so honest and just being so fantastic. So please check out the Big Vito brand. Vito just started a Twitch page and has a podcasting network as well. So go on like the regular podcasting hours